Evening everybody, welcome to 1961. At least this set is, or the majority of it is. Now, as you've probably noticed, I've been doing quite a few of these, shall we say, set review videos, or perhaps not that really in depth, but look at sets, see what you get, new sets, old sets. And this is over 50 years old, 54 to be precise. I bought this around just over 2 years ago, and it was an eBay buy. I found it in my listings, and it's nice to see the old stuff as well as the new stuff, the very latest stuff as well, of course. But half of the reason for showing you this video is to tell you about my mistakes when I was getting back into the scene almost 3 years ago. As I say, this was an eBay buy, and I will say now I paid too much for it, even then when prices were perhaps a little bit higher than they are now. Certainly some colour schemes like yellow and zinc are pretty low in price at the moment. Of course, if you look at some of the sales on eBay, you will see that people want an awful lot for a pile of scrap. So be careful, and that's it, be careful. Take a look at the pictures, read the descriptions. Any doubt, don't bother. Of course, sometimes you can see a bargain quite easily, and especially if you've got an auction that starts at 99p, it's worth keeping an eye on it. But some of the junk out there that starts at, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 quid, and it's really bad, in the hope that some idiot comes along. Perhaps we've all done that sort of thing and thought, oh yes, I'll have that, and we've made a mistake. But you live and learn, don't you? Well, I've lived a bit and I've learnt from this one, although the set is usable. So let's have a look at it. MECCANO No.4 outfit, 1961, and we know that, or at least we know the box lid is, because it tells us there. It's a bit wonky on this one, but just there, 1961 on the guarantee slip. The box itself is below average, but it's reasonably solid, rather the lid is. The book, if I remember correctly, the instruction book, it's a little bit frayed on the edges and a little bit thin. This one's 1958, August 58. There's a date code just there. Well, that's in sequence with this period of that book there. Now, I paid, and I was quite surprised when I thought about it, because it's been so long ago. I thought, well, I must not have paid loads for it, because I would have remembered, and I mustn't have not got it for really cheap, like 99p, because I remember that too. Well, unfortunately, it was nearer the other end. I paid £22.99 and about 5 quid post on top of that. It is weighty, but it's been lying around, and I thought, let's get back to some old stuff, and need to start creating some more stuff for steam power, because that's been a bit on the wane of late. So I just thought I'd give it out, and first thing to do, of course, with a set that's 50 odd years old, is check it before you start. Now, the book is a little bit tired. It's starting to come a bit loose now, but it's like a couple of quid perhaps. And if you add all the parts up, even in the state of some of these parts where there's quite a bit of paint missing or they're not that straight, you will spend more than 27 quid in all with the post to get this amount of parts. What I think it is though, I think it's a set made up. There were some parts in, and some other parts have been found and put in, and not all equate to the same period. So the book, as I say, is about 2 quid, probably a bit less actually, because this one is starting to fall apart, but about that. They ain't that expensive. You can get them online for nothing anyway and download them. Now, parts wise, as you can see, there's something in every part of the tray. That doesn't mean a thing. You will read that on eBay. It'll be, I can't say the set's complete because I can't be bothered to check, is what I'm saying, but there's a part in every hole in the box. Doesn't mean a thing. Does not mean a thing at all. For example, we've got a trunnion. There's only one in each one. Should there be 4 together? So take that with a pinch of salt. Now, this set is complete now, because I've gone through it and I've checked it, and to be honest, apart from a few nuts and bolts, it was complete. Not complete in period parts, but complete as a whole. There was a couple of axles that weren't MECCANO axles. They would look like homemade cut downs, and there was one 5.5-inch strip, one of these that was cut down too. I've replaced that. I've replaced some of the nuts and bolts, so brought that up to, and I put a few spare in to be honest as well, brought that up to spec as it were. But we look through the set, and after my research and everything, it's complete. The greens, you may see, these are quite dark, the flat trunnions are quite light, same with these few parts here and here, and even the one trunnion is lighter than the other one. Because colours can change over the years anyway. But the greens post-war were pretty much green. They stayed the same, about the same sort of green. But the reds did change. Now, I'll say now, I'm no expert and I could have got things wrong and written them down wrong. But the bare bones of it is this. Before 1954, or up to 1954, post-war up to 54, there were no slotted holes in flexible plates. Here we have some curved flexible plates, no slotted holes. So those are no later than 1954. Same with these alleged U-shaped curved plates, but they looked a bit too creased there for me to. I think they're actually square ones that somebody's bent, but I could be able to use them. And if I want to bend them, it doesn't matter now. Again, no slotted holes. So they're 1954. You may notice as well that they also are slightly darker to this triangular flange plate here, and that one's a bit faded anyway. But if I bring you this piece out, this flange plate, and show you, you should hopefully be able to see the difference, I hope. If I go like that, maybe not a lot of difference, but the flange plate is more ever so slightly towards like a scarlet red. That's more like a light maroon. So that's something. It can't be crossover period because there's what, 7 years difference, so I doubt that is the case. You may think there's not a lot of parts, but there is some parts hiding. Now I think the layout of this set is pretty much as it would have been, but I couldn't tell you whether it's exact or not. I'll get this flange plate out and you'll see we have several flexible strips in varying conditions, from reasonable to quite used, and there's some worse than this, but you can see that's creased. That actually, it's pretty flat. I might not bother straightening that, but there are one or two parts that I will straighten out before use a little bit, and indeed I have already done some of the strips. As you can see, we've still got a few of the little pins, like drawing pins, that hold the parts in, or did hold the parts in when they're going once, because this is essentially hollow plastic. But all the parts are here. Some parts do not look used at all. Now, rubber is rubber, and these are still a little bit flexible, so that's good. Look at this wheel disc. That has never been used, I don't think. Nice and shiny. I was a bit dubious at the time of first researching, because it's got the plastic road wheels. I would have thought at this age it would have still had the tin ones, but no, it's about just after the changeover roughly. Now I don't mind these wheels, but anything that's heavy, they do suffer from cracking quite easily. In the past, with the red and black ones we've got to the extreme of, it's either scrap them and save the bosses, or use a soldering iron on the back. I suppose these days there's a suitable glue, but they were talking like 30 years ago, I suppose, really. Thing I don't like about those is some of the models, they suit lorries and buses and that sort of thing, but a sports car, no. We do have a nice, well, nice-ish box of smalls, including recently WD-40'd nuts and bolts, cleaned up a bit. There's varying shades of parts in there. You look at some of the angle brackets and some of the fish plates, they're different shades, different finish. So it's been made up, I think, mostly, with the odd part that's not seen much use at all. Probably the best example of a part not being used at all is the hook. There's a bit of paint missing off there, but I don't think that's been repainted. And if I recall, that was a dinky hook to start with, from the dinky car, die-cast car series. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. We've got a hanker cord which is underneath there. Now that's rare in itself, so I think somebody's took some time to try and make it up into a fairly usable set. Some parts are very good. The hinged plates there, that's very good indeed. Of course, you don't use them very often, I find. But it's all there. There's some dubious colours. There's some parts that we can narrow down to about 7 years before, but it's all usable now. I've probably got some parts that I could bring it up to the right period parts like these, but I'm thinking, well, it's hardly mint, why bother, let's enjoy it for what it is. So as long as you get it for the right price, even if there's odd parts missing, nuts and bolts, they can be replaced, no problem. Even if you have to use the modern Allen bolts, you can still use them, and at least you can use the set. It's not the right period, but as long as you enjoy what you do with it, great. Fortunately with this, none of the parts have been bent to standard, bent to extreme that it means really scrapping. All the parts, maybe minus a bit of paint, or quite a lot of paint, but they have been salvageable quite easily. I mean, the strips I just bent back together with my hands and fingers and it was fine. The one of the flat trunnions required a little bit more effort. A black spanner there, that's unusual. But everything seems to be okay. The rubber on the tyres doesn't look bad. So I think overall, I think most of the parts, strip wise, were original. Perhaps they should have been a bit lighter, but who knows. Shades varied anyway. Now, if I was buying this now, with a bit more knowledge that I've remembered, if you like, and learned new stuff, of course. Well, I mean, the screwdriver's a quid, the instruction book's a couple of quid. These 3-inch pulleys are very decent. I've tried those, spun those, and they're very true. Not perhaps spot on, but they're only slightly out, very slightly out. What's that, couple of quid each? So we're already up to what? 2, 4, screwdrivers 5, 7 with the instruction book, and we haven't counted anything else like the 80 odd bolts, which 100 bolts now, the Allen bolts off the top of my head are what, something like $3.99 for 100, something like that, $4.99. Brass finish ones, probably a bit more, certainly not less, in good nick. So it's still not a bad price on reflection, but I think now you could get this probably for 15, I would say. 20. Okay, that's only what, 3 quid less than I paid for it, but I think I did pay a little bit too much at the time. But perfectly usable. It requires a bit of a polish before, because I did get grubby just looking through it, and a few parts straightening out, and then we're going to make something, which is the best bit about everything. Make something. What, I don't know. I've a mind to make something to be steam driven, and there's lots of models. Just in the 4 set models in this book, it goes up to 35 models, and that's a rather nice saloon car. Perhaps a bit dated by 1961, of course. Perhaps that was some of the problems with their going bust, some of the models looking a bit dated, but quite nice. We've got an automatic slag dumper. That's not being rude. That's slag off coal mines and foundries. That's the rubbish, in other words. We've got a traction engine, but wouldn't be easy to live stream a traction engine even in a 4 set. Keyside unloader. Now this is probably the more. Try not to ruin the book, although it's ruined anyway. Well, get in there. Here we have on the left there a drilling machine. Now there's various drilling machines, but that's quite a decent size. Whether it be powerful enough to drill a bit of balsa with a drill bit in, who knows, but that's a nice model, nice size, so that's a possibility. But there's lots of models in the set. I don't know how accurate the instructions are. There's usually a few spanners thrown in the works. So there we go, folks. $22.99, perhaps. Oh, I don't know. 8-10 quid too much, at least by today's prices. But a usable set once it's been titivated a little bit.